welcome. Well, for the audience watching this during this event and even after the event, these two gentlemen you may not know yet, but if you don't know them, look them up on social media, get to know them. They are both legends in their own right. Jonathan, I follow him on, he has a phenomenal Facebook group, like 125,000 people. The images that Jonathan creates, I'm still perplexed at how he does it. He is a master at prompt engineering. And then Kristen Moore, back-end development developer, super intelligent. He is a driver of all things AI code, and he sees the world from a very different perspective when it comes to ethics, as is Jonathan. Gentlemen, I'm going to give you guys the floor. I'm going to bug out, and I'll be in as it kind of starts to wrap up. If you guys need anything, I'm right here. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Super.
Hey, Christian, it's been a little while. I'm looking forward to this. Where do we want to start? Because we don't necessarily agree on this one, and that's going to make it some fun.
Yes, it's going to be a blast. I'm really excited. When we were initially talking about this concept, we imagined almost like an MMA fighter head type of situation, where we're going to be presenting some controversial points and some very, I'm sure you have a lot of, evidence to back up your claims, and I brought the guns as well. So I'm excited to dive on into this, Jonathan. I've been pumped about it all day.
All right. Well, let me dive in, because I've probably got the more controversial opinion, and you can tell me why I'm wrong, and I'm good with that. By the way, for those of you watching, Christian and I have known each other for a while. We actually get along socially just fine, but we don't always agree, and we thought this would be a lot of fun. So I'm going to jump in. AI ethics is made up. AI ethics is irrelevant. That's my opinion. We'll talk more about it, but Christian, the first time I told you that, I thought you were going to have a heart attack on screen as we were talking. Talk to me about your perspective and your response to that.
Yeah, when you shared that with me, I remember hearing it, and I'm like, okay, there's like, Jonathan is an extremely intelligent man. There's a reason that he's saying this, right? There's a reason that he's developed this perspective around AI. And the more that you shared, the more I understood. And what we found at the end of that conversation is that we're coming from totally different worlds when it comes to AI, potentially how it's applied in business specifically, but also potentially the people that we talk to, which I thought was a really fascinating aspect of that discussion, because our perspectives and worldviews, just like all of them, have been shaped by our experiences and the people and the environments we're around. And so it's really incredible, to just hear a perspective from a side of the coin that I'm not seeing on my side of things. And so I'm sure it was also very shocking to hear from my side, as there was more and more that unfolded to the story as to why I felt that this was such a pertinent issue, especially in this stage of development with AI. So yeah, I'll turn the question back on you there, Jonathan. What was your thoughts when I stood that ground and was like, no, this is something important to discuss. This is important to bring.
I thought you were crazy. Come on, Christian. I thought you were absolutely nuts. I've grown to respect you. You're super intelligent. I respect your opinions. And here we're disagreeing on something that to me is so incredibly fundamental. And let me make it clear for the audience that's listening in. AI ethics, from my perspective, is a made up, contrived thing in order to get attention. And it's been made up by people that want to control the process. There is no such thing as AI ethics. There's ethics, and we darn well better have ethics in our business, but there aren't different ethics because of AI. We need to have ethical and run our businesses ethically regardless. But the concept of AI ethics, and that AI changes the way we need to do business and changes the way we need to look at ethics, bull. It does not. We need to have ethics right up front. Christian's smiling and laughing already. Christian, come on, jump on in here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is we both 100% agree that ethics is that universal concept of, do to another person what you want done to yourself. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. And that translates all the way through to professional worlds, academic worlds, wherever you are. Those ethics ring as the bottom of how do you interact with a human, as a human to another human, as a person to a person, as a 100%. Person to an animal, or to things, even inanimate objects. These core beliefs surrounding how we interact in the world that we agree on. My argument and my focus specifically with this ethics conversation is not around controlling the process, but rather around opening a discussion around a possibility and a potential with this technology that's never been possible with anything we've created up to this point, which is the replication of human interaction to a degree that is indistinguishable from an actual human-to-human interaction, and the specific considerations that must come into discussion around that specific area of AI application, which all of them to some degree do that in some effect, right? Content creation, just
Sure.
like the previous panel, was around how can we match our voice in the best way possible so that our content is in alignment with our brand and our personality instead of seeming incongruent. But that is just the tip of that iceberg of replication and duplication of human interaction, even in the concept of video or voice, even just from a simple, but even communication through text, which is that content piece. And so with that piece of consideration in mind of the replication of human interaction, do you believe that there is a specific conversation or specific problem that that ability presents us, even as a species, as a human race, to be able to replicate what used to be only capable with humans?
I think it's a problem for people that don't have ethics, absolutely. But again, I don't think it's an AI ethics thing. I think it's an ethical discussion. You know, for example, I talked on the last panel, I train AI to sound like me, not because I'm trying to buffalo you and to make you go, oh, that Jonathan's brilliant because he wrote all this. I've got huge disclaimers all over my website, all over everything I produce, talking about how I use AI to assist me in the process. And that's the way I look at it. It's no different to me than if I had my assistant write a memo for me. That happens all the time. It's happened for decades and decades and decades that executives have had their assistants write memos and things like that, and then they sign them and send them out. But they also review those memos. Very rarely does that executive give that assignment, get that memo, and never touch it, never do anything else. They look at it. And that's the way I look at AI-assisted content as well. Do I use AI to help me create more content? Yes. But mainly because it helps me create better content that resonates with my audience. And so going back to the ethical discussion, am I trying to make it sound like me? Yes, I am. Am I trying to push it off as me? No, not at all. And this is something you mentioned that candidly just blows my mind, that you're talking to people about that wanting to create sales bots, which we don't totally agree on where they're at. I don't think they're ready yet. I think they're going there. We will get there. But just like I said in the last panel, we won't write a blog post without proofreading it or a social media post. But yet we want to turn over our sales process to a bot that's going to be answering stuff that we have no idea what questions the process. Come on, where are we coming from on that? I have never had a client come to me and go, but I don't want them to know it's a bot. And you had shared with me, if I can say so, that probably the majority of the people coming to you are coming to going, yeah, but I don't want them to know it's a bot. To me, that's just not ethical. It's not about being authentic. If I'm going to use a bot, that's okay. But I want to tell you right up front, hey, this is Jonathan's AI bot, or this is an AI assistant or whatever. For multiple reasons, but for no other reason, I know that if I'm trying to serve you as a customer and I try to push it off as me, you're going to have one level of expectation. If I say, no, this isn't Jonathan, this is an AI bot, your level of expectation just drops significantly, as did the amount of grace you're going to give me if that AI bot screws up. If I didn't tell you it's an AI bot, there's a story out about Air Canada that did this. You've probably heard that they had an AI bot and somebody called in about a bereavement flight and they talked the AI into giving them a free flight. And Air Canada's like, oh, sorry, that was an AI bot. We're not going to do it. I don't know how it all ended up. It doesn't really matter. The whole point is, if they had been up front and been more clear about the fact that this is an AI bot, and you can talk to a human in 3 minutes or you can talk to an AI bot right now, they would have had a lot better position as a company and been able to provide better service than by passing that off as a real human being that was providing service. And to me, it's you know, whether we're talking politics or religion, which we're not going to talk any of today, it's kind of like that person on the other side of the fence, and you're looking at how in the world could you believe that? To me, I don't understand how you could use AI and think that you didn't need to disclose the fact that you were using it, or that you would hide from the fact that you were using AI. To me, we use it because it's a tool. If I'm a roofer, I use a power hammer because I can do it faster and provide you more value as my customer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I live around a bunch of Amish. I could get on the roof and do it with a pound hammer too. But even the Amish that live around me are now using air-driven hammers. Why? Because it's faster. So I don't have to hide that. I don't have to hide the fact that I'm using AI. So that blew my mind when you said that you had clients that were coming to you or prospects coming to you that didn't want their customers to know.
Yeah, and that's in a lot of ways what's formed the basis of my positioning of that ethics is a unique conversation that for some reason with AI well, I know why, but with AI technology, it seems to be a more of a blurry line for some people. And that's where on my side, I'm on your side. I argue that exact point when somebody comes to me and they say, hey, I want to be able to use this technology to either A, replicate myself and make people think that this is me, or B, today I don't want them to know it's a bot. And when I'm posed with that, when I was first posed with that question, we'll go back to the beginning. When I was first posed with that question, I remember in my mind being like, why would you want that? Why would you give that responsibility over to something you barely understand? And even me, I am in this technology all of the time. I am continuously learning about this technology. Like there's so much that goes into it. There's so much complexity. And you want to pass that over. You want to pass over your identity, like who you are, and pass that off as you. So in my mind, I'm like, why would you want that? And then in the application of it, I can some degree see why they do. Because, as for us, we are an AI agency. We provide AI services to people. So when people come to us, they're looking for AI. They're like, where's your AI? I want to test it, right? Like I want to experience it. So for us, we're like, this is where it is. This is AI. And if you want to talk to humans, this is where the humans are. When they're in a business like a chiropractor, dentist, roofer, you brought up, like they're interacting with an end user that is a customer that's used to and is always interacted with a human on the other side. And when there's a bot or an automated system that's introduced into that interaction, there's a feeling of like, oh, they're not like, I'm not good enough to talk to a human. Just like when you get on that, that recorded line and they're like working through an automated, so you're like, can I just talk to someone who can actually help me? That's the feeling that they get. But instead of tackling that problem head on, and like you said, justifying and talking about the value and the way that changes the way that they can provide more, better, faster service to their clients and customers, going the route, which is the easy route, right? It's that, just let's shortcut this real quick and not worry about any of that and just do our best to hide this. That seems to be that first angle that people take. And I've had to do a lot of education and talking with these clients. Some of them, chose to go other ways, but with the people that stick with us, we encourage and we harp on this aspect a lot. And that's why I believe it has to be a unique discussion, because I've never in my life had the conversation of, can I pass this off as me? Even an assistant, right? That's always been like, oh no, this is my assistant on behalf of XYZ company, on behalf of XYZ person. Never have we ever thought like, oh, pretend to be me, assistant, like, pretend to be me, because they don't have the knowledge that person has or the company has. So they cannot provide that. They can be an assistant and play that role. And that's where there seems to be some weird disconnect. And then the application of this technology, which, like I said, has never been possible before. And just with any new technology, like it always will present new risks and hazards, but there seems to be a big need for an education around the importance of not.
And see, I gotta disagree with you there. I don't think they're new risks and new hazards. These are the same things that we've been dealing with for hundreds of years. They just are looking differently. There's nothing new in the world that says this is a new risk. No, it's a new tool that maybe purports itself in a different way. But I'll go back to the prospect that doesn't want them to know that, this AI bot is an AI bot. Again, it's not an AI ethics discussion. This is an ethical discussion. This is a doing what's right discussion. In my mind, it has nothing to do with AI other than the fact that we're talking about it. And what just grinds me is you've got academics and you've got news media and you've got politicians and all these people that, with all due respect to everybody except the politicians, have no clue what they're talking about. And they keep on saying, oh, but we need to talk about AI ethics. Bull crap. We need to talk about ethics, not AI ethics. And I just don't see that it's any different because of AI. I think what we're seeing candidly is I think we're seeing people that have never had that ethics discussion in their head, with themselves, with their heart. They've never defined that integrity is important. They put it on their sign because the branding guy told them integrity is important. And of course, they're not going to lie to your face. But if they can lie behind your back, it sounds like all the people I grew up going to church with. It's okay to lie behind your back. It's just not okay to lie to your face. That's not okay.
No.
And I think in my mind, again, this is not about AI. This is about ethics and morals and doing what's right. And it just so happens that we're seeing some of it because now we're being presented with new opportunities, whether it's AI or whether we get hit by an EMP and all of a sudden we're back without electricity. We're going to be dealing with some new stuff, folks, and that will bring about new discussions. But it's not about an EMP ethics or EMP morals. It's about ethics. AI just happens to be the trigger that's causing it in my mind.
And I can agree with that. And I'll take it a step further here in just a moment. But I just want to say, this is what I love about this discussion with you. And even when we initially had it, is that at the bottom of it, we 100% agree. You should not disagree.
I agree. Once we get down to the foundation, we are in agreement. We're just not necessarily in agreement about where we go as we build it up. But that's okay. Yeah. That's what makes this fun.
But that's what I really want to hone in on with the people watching this, is that the really important thing is that one aspect alone is being honest and being transparent with the way that you use AI technology in every opportunity and regard, which comes back to those ethics there. But the way that I'll take it,
see, not to interrupt, but then I would just go back to that foundation. It's exactly what you said, but remove the word AI. It's about having integrity and being honest and being transparent in everything we do. If AI is causing you issues with that, it's because your foundation isn't set right. That's the problem. It's not because of AI. It's because foundationally you're screwed up.
No, I can accept that, and that's where. Well, actually, first, let me pause. I think I just saw a comment come through for the panel. A quick question for us. So I'll read it out and then we can discuss this, and then we'll take it a little.
Okay, cool.
So as users of ChatGPT, there are certain ways we can contribute to the ethical training of AI as it gathers information. For example, the way we interact with ChatGPT, manner, politeness, and etiquette. If you have something just off the top of your head, Jonathan, feel free. I have a couple thoughts on that as well.
First of all, Rachel, I appreciate the question. I will readily admit it's like I don't know what ethical training is. To me, ethics has become this catchword that we want to throw in everywhere to make people go, oh, and stop. Are there ways that we can contribute to training AI as it gathers information? Absolutely. Are there ways that we can do that the correct way? Absolutely. Is it an ethical question? Well, in my mind, I suppose it could be, but it's not just an ethical question. It's about doing business the right way. And, politeness and all that, that depends on your personality. I want it to reflect my tone and style. Some people like that. Other people, I'm sure, are watching this going, man, Jonathan is all wet. That's okay. You don't have to agree with me. I'm old enough now. I don't care. But I want AI, when I'm using it, to reflect my tone and style. If I try to be somebody I'm not, then that's wrong, especially if I'm trying to purport it as what I'm doing and who I am, because it's not who I am. So I don't know if I'm answering the question, but yes, I think there are responsibilities. And candidly, Rachel, I think the best way to train AI is to go take some personality tests and then give those personality results to AI. Because if I tell them that I'm an ENTJ, or I can't remember what I am right now as I'm getting worked up on the call here. I don't remember exactly what my Myers-Briggs is. I can look it up. In fact, I will. But what I can tell you is that when I tell that to ChatGPT or to Claude or anything else, by the way, it's an ENTJ. I just had to look at it. So when I give that to the AI model, it knows volumes of information about what an ENTJ on Myers-Briggs is. And when I combine that with other aspects of my personality, like I'm a high D and my Colby score and my again, others, it now knows a lot about where I'm coming from, my perspective. And Christian, I'm going to bet that if we took the same personality tests at the end, like most people, we're going to have different results, and that's okay. My wife and I have different results. My kids and I have different results. My coworkers and I have different results. But I want AI to sound like me, so I want to train it on my personality. So I don't know, Christian, I took too long on that one. What do you think?
No, that was great. As far as the ethical training of AI, I think what you're meaning is like as a whole, contributing to the guiding of AI. Absolutely, how you use it will play a part. The only thing I'll throw on top of that is that the decision making for what data is kept is outside of that control, as far as the ultimate integration into the AI itself. But by the way, it is literally being shaped by how we're using it. So as an individual user, you absolutely make a splash in the pool. And so the way that you use this technology will shape. And that's one thing that I fully believe. That's why I'm involved in the space as well, is because I believe by being involved, we'll have that impact versus by, not necessarily being involved, we wouldn't have that shaping effect. But yeah, thank you for the question, Rachel. But one of the things this kind of leads into back into that ethics in the training of AI, in that with the future, as I look into what is coming with the release of GPT-5, for example, and everything that will come on top of that with humanoid representations of these AI models and integration deeper into like physical parts of our society instead of just these digital versions. There's this aspect of, again, the replication of human interaction to the point of indistinguishability. And my mind instantly thinks, for example, even in the education system, where in the education system, even during COVID, there was a big transition to online virtual learning, which had an impact, on these kids, and ultimately created different risks about this process of going to school. For example, now all of a sudden you have to make sure they're getting outside and socializing, because now there's not those elements part of their natural school day because they're on a computer online. But then taking that a step further about how AI will impact the education space, I very much see and even am kind of behind the involvement of AI tutors and AI teachers to help to provide tailored support and education to each and individual student, because that's amazing, right? To have every single student have a dedicated AI teacher. But at what point with that teacher or that, that person that's playing a role, whether that's a doctor, therapist, like all these different industries, when it's so close to human like that you can't tell the difference, or the child or the person on the other side cannot tell the difference, what does that do to the mind? And what does that do to the social development of that person? Just like with screens, the introduction of that technology, how that's impacted the mental health and the social behavior of humans across the globe. How is then a replication in a computer of even deeper human involvement? Like we've seen social media and how just the dopamine hits of getting likes on your story or on your posts changes how you interact with the world, and you start to seek that more than the real interaction of life. And so now if you can literally, talk, see, now touch an AI that feels human, that talks and seems human and can connect with you emotionally. GPT-5 is said to be able to replicate the emotional capability of humans, again, to indistinguishability. That is where I believe this ethics conversation will become ever so important, because it's like, at what point do we draw that line and say AI should not go here? AI shouldn't maybe be in romantic relationships with humans. AI maybe shouldn't have therapeutic relationships with humans, which that's never been a concept or conversation as far as I'm concerned before. And so I agree with you, no new things under the sun. But these are very interesting times that we're in, and the potential of this technology is very interesting to me.
Well, no doubt about interesting times. And that brings up a whole nother discussion we don't have time for today, but that's it. Do I really want to trust that decision of whether or not I can have a romantic or a therapeutic relationship with an AI model to somebody else? No, I don't. I admit, I'm very much a laissez-faire type guy. Don't bug me about what I do. I'm not going to bug you about what you do. Are there moral and ethics that come into that? Yes, there are standards that we have to maintain. And I think, that's big. We're not going to hurt people. We're not going to cause people harm, all that type of stuff. But at the same point in time, if there's somebody who's lonely and they decide, I'm from Michigan, they live up on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and they live in snow 9.5 months a year and darkness the other, and they want to have a romantic or therapeutic relationship with AI, I don't care. I really don't. That's their choice if they're an adult. Now, it's different if they're not an adult, but I don't want some bureaucrat deciding what AI can and cannot do, because I'm pretty sure they're going to make more wrong choices than they are right choices. Again, that's a whole nother discussion, but it's all part of that in my mind. Yes, there are things coming up, but ultimately, again, I think this is where we need to have our foundational morals and ethics in place as human beings. And it's not about AI morals or AI ethics. It's about our morals and our ethics. And candidly, I think a lot of us don't necessarily have that foundation in place, and that's why it's causing a problem.
I think that what you're speaking to is something that I would agree with on the undermining of values, if you will, or the integrity or character in society in general across the world, and just the introduction of more evil, or how, whatever is angled there. But with that, one of the things I'll point to and then draw it back here real quick is with social media, just as a basic example of an AI algorithm that was deployed on humanity without necessarily their knowledge and awareness, right? Social media algorithms, TikTok is a beautiful example in that it's listening to your conversations, it knows what apps you have, and it's crafting and curating this content also based off of your interactions, and it's AI based. So it's learning you and it's learning what you like. And that introduced the very unique problem that actually got Facebook sued, which was that it was showing content that was exasperating mental health issues specifically, that led to suicides and led to issues where people were taking action on things that were, it's like, that's your Facebook feed did that? What? And yeah, some dude in his house alone, is now being exposed to things that are pushing him over an edge, and that can go in any, terrible direction that we take it.
Sure.
And that's where there's like this, again, unique problem that comes out when we have this technology. And it's like, yes, maybe we shouldn't have to care if, somebody's alone using as an adult, but we also understand that, in order for us to have a safe experience and environment for the public exposure, if you will, of these types of technologies, we have to understand the implications of that. And it's not about leaving it up to a bureaucrat to decide for us, right? It's a discussion that we all should be a part of, and we all should be contributing to when it comes to how is this technology going to be used in our world, and not necessarily that we all have to be on the same page. I think that's impossible. It's more about coming back to that foundation of how can we make sure that the same principles, integrity, ethics, morals, values carry on and continue, even with increased power and responsibility that does come with AI technology.
Well, and I don't disagree with it, but again, I think that goes back to the basics. We need to have our foundations right. And if we don't, AI, we can't control AI. AI is not going to make it bad or worse. It's just going to amplify those flaws in our character, just like it amplifies our skills and our experience.
Agreed. I 100% agree with that. Yeah. So, I think the debate, again, the part where I have the heels in the ground, if you will, Jonathan, is that I've never seen, and I will concede, you've been in business longer than I have. You've seen more of life than I have, but I have never seen the disconnection between is it okay or not outside of the world of AI. I have not seen it like this. And that's why I think that it deserves a unique representation. Again, not from the side of should legislators be deciding this, or should there be laws and regulations and rules be put into place, like even with the social media thing. Should we have mandatory limits and guidelines on how much we're allowed to scroll on our phones? No, but how much more conducive to society if there was some type of protection mechanism that kept people from wasting hours a day on social media.
I got two words for you: personal responsibility. Personal responsibility. It's not somebody else's job to protect me from everything in life. I don't have a safe space on earth. It doesn't exist, and it shouldn't necessarily exist. We don't have the right not to be offended. We don't have the right not to be stupid. If we want to be sucked in by some of that, that's a problem. Now, at the same point, I'm not allowed to bully somebody or to harass somebody. That's illegal, and our country has determined that's wrong. That would be wrong whether AI is doing it or not. And if AI is doing it, then I guess we need to look at who's behind the AI, and there's some culpability there. But again, to me, it's not an AI discussion. It's then a harassment discussion or something along those. It's a stalking discussion, whatever the case may be. I just see there's so many people from my perspective, and I'm not saying I'm right across the board. I don't want to be universal, but there's so many people that are trying to avoid any level of personal responsibility in their choices. And they want to have somebody else step in and make those choices for them so they don't have to. And I just have two words for those people: grow up. It's time to be an adult. Okay.
Yes.
It's, you know, I am an adult. I'm 55 years old. I've been here a while. Okay. But I keep learning. And have I made mistakes and paid the price? You bet I have. Do I wish somebody could have helped me in some of those situations? Yeah. But had they, I wouldn't be the man I am today. I wouldn't have the same values I have today because those experiences molded me into who I am. And some of those experiences, for the record, they really sucked. But it was because I made bad choices. It wasn't necessarily because somebody else did. Now, I was presented with bad opportunities. Were they culpable? Sure, maybe. But I still made the choices. And in my mind, it's like the AI things you're talking about. Again, we have laws to protect us against harassment and stalking and all those types of things, cyberbullying. I have a really hard time accepting that because of AI, we need more of that. I cannot get my arms around it. I cannot get my heart around it. Again, I'm going to go back to personal responsibility. At the end of the day, you know, will bad things occasionally happen to people because they do stupid things? Yes, it will. Can we protect everybody from themselves? No, we can't. I want to focus on protecting that 6-year-old from doing something they shouldn't because they don't know better. They don't have the experience. But the 40-year-old, or in my case, the 55-year-old that decides to do something stupid and gets in trouble, I guess you should have known better. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm crap, maybe I'm rude, but I guess you should have known better.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad you brought that piece up because I had hit on that a little bit earlier in the conversation with the idea or the concept of AI educators, you know, in a school setting with school age children. And, you know, when again, you know, and my thinking, I'm very forward thinking in the sense of like, I'm looking to create a world that I want to leave behind to my children. I have 2 daughters myself, you know, and the reality is like, they are in like, if I take myself back, you know, I was born at the onset of technology, near the onset of technology, in the sense of smartphones were, I grew up with smartphones in my world. You know, it wasn't quite early on, but
You're
technology,
young, man.
phones. The point of that is that I remember as a child, my mom got sold iPhones, right? And it was the first smartphone, but she got sold iPhones. They were like $1 a pop if she got more than 4, you know, it was like a super good deal, a no-brainer deal. She got iPhones, and all of a sudden she had what was literally a digital addiction starting to form in her children in her household.
Sure.
But her as a parent had no idea what was about to unfold as far as social media scrolling, as far as access to explicit games like violent video games, for example. These things that shape the development of the child's mind that the parent had no awareness of would be even a question or a thought. And
without
like, what do you mean?
without picking on your mom there, because I don't mean to do that at all. I don't know your mom, and I don't think anything bad about her at all. But it's your parents' responsibility and not somebody else's responsibility. And it's certainly not the phone company's responsibility, and they shouldn't be at fault for selling those phones just because those phones may have had a negative reaction or a negative impact on a family. That's where, again, I'm going to go back to the same two words: personal responsibility. You know, I've got 2 sons, I've got 2 grandchildren, and if I see them doing something with a phone that they shouldn't, it's my responsibility to stop that and change that, not to blame the phone company because they made me a good deal on phones. And I'm not saying you were doing that. I'm extrapolating. But you know, I think some people do that, though. I do think there are people that go, well, hang on, it wasn't my fault. I mean, you know, I didn't know there were violent games they could shoot people on there, and that was going to make my kid violent and mess him up. Well, you should have, and if you didn't, when you should have realized it at some point and done something about it. And that, I guess, is what I sense going back to the beginnings of what we're talking about with this whole AI ethics. To me, it seems like, and I hate to put people in groups, but it seems like most of the people that are out there purporting AI ethics, either they themselves want to make the decisions for all of us, or they don't want to make any decisions and they want some third party to do it. I want neither. I want to make decisions for myself and my family, and I want you to be able to make decisions for you and your family. I shouldn't be able to tell you what's right for your 2 daughters. You're their father. I'm not. You shouldn't be able to tell me what's right for my two grandchildren because they're not related. And that's, I guess, where I start getting on my high horse or my soapbox or whatever you want to call it, because I see this as a very slippery slope that we use this, in particular, certain people use this as ways to gain control over our lives and tell us what to do. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves down the road going, kind of like with, I didn't realize this would happen if I bought phones for my 5-year-old. Now we find ourselves down the road going, wow, I didn't know this was going to happen if I turned over responsibility of this decision to that bureaucrat or that politician or that whomever, doesn't matter. It's the wrong thing to do, plain and simple. Again, I want to go back. We need foundational concepts that we subscribe to, that we believe in, whether they're driven by religion and faith, as many of mine are, whether they're delivered by logic, whether they're delivered by fantasy. We still need to have those so that we can subscribe to those and base our lives and our actions on those things.
Yes.
You're smiling. You're smiling. You got to be thinking something.
I do. I have one more point, and again, the foundational aspect, and I love the discussion around maintaining personal autonomy and personal responsibility, because I think that forms the foundation of a truly healthy society, right? If I need to be micromanaged in every little thing that I do to make sure that I'm safe, it is like, what is that? What kind of adult, what kind of independent individual, who am I? And on the other side of it, that responsibility of deciding, what's right for each family or each specific life is absolutely should be maintained on the individual. The thing that I'll touch on once more is with that phone scenario that I brought up of the purchase of those phones. The capability of the access had never been accessible before. Even the flip phones that had come prior, you couldn't watch videos, play games in the same way that you could on a smartphone. So this brand new technology that there's no real awareness, because there's just it's new technology. There's not a real understanding of what it's capable of or what it can do. And then we start seeing the impacts in society of that introduction. And if we had, instead of being motivated by profit and by putting that hot deal on the market as quickly as possible, and instead looked at, okay, what is this technology? What is the impact of this? Let's study this behavior. Let's study what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and then we're not going to have any innovation. I mean, again, you just said nobody knew the impact, so we can't blame the companies for selling it. They didn't know the impact. The parents didn't know the impact. The government didn't know the impact. If we want to live in a plastic bubble, a rubber bubble, then go check yourself into an asylum somewhere and let them control your life. That's not where I want to live, plain and simple. No, again, I'm going to take your own words, Christian. You just said nobody knew. Well, if nobody knew, what we're basically purporting, if we want to turn that to somebody else, is we want to give the power to somebody else who doesn't know and let them control our lives. No, I don't want to do that. I am an adult. I'm comfortable making my own decisions. It's my choice. It's my way to do it. I don't want to do anything wrong, but if I do, as I have in the past, I'll be held accountable for that. That's okay. That's why we have laws and we have rules and regulations that are in place. But again, just using your own words, nobody knew. Well, if nobody knew, then all I'm trying to say, if I want regulation, is I'm trusting somebody that doesn't know, probably knows even less than we do, to make decisions on my behalf. I don't want that. And that's, again, going back to AI ethics. I think that's all we're doing with AI ethics. We're trying to sidestep our own personal responsibility.
And let me just take it back one step, because the goal isn't to regulate. That's not in my,
But that's where we're headed when we start talking about AI ethics. It's absolutely the road we're on. It's absolutely the road we're on.
I'm going to go back to they didn't know, because that was, with the answer to, I don't know what this will do, and releasing that. That's where I think that priority of profit took precedence, instead of saying,
but if nobody knew, then how would have they known that profit motive was incorrect? You just said nobody knew. If nobody knew about the dangers, then we can't blame the people that made money off it. That's baloney. Nobody knew. I mean, again, you're saying, if it's like AI right now, it is not somebody's responsibility to figure out all the bad things that AI can do and then protect me from them. It's my responsibility to use it responsibly And if I see it's doing something that I shouldn't do, such as the ability to go to HeyGen and with sufficient training, create a video that might maybe convince some people that Jonathan said something he didn't, that's wrong. It's wrong whether HeyGen exists or not. It's wrong whether AI exists or not. And it's my responsibility as an adult, when I discover that that's possible or that's going on, that I don't go there. Earlier today, I was listening, somebody was talking about a school teacher that got in trouble because they created content. I don't remember if it was video or audio or what, that sounded like a principal. And the principal actually got fired. The principal was terminated. He was going to get in deep trouble. And then they found out it wasn't him at all. Somebody had deep faked him using AI. That's not AI's fault.
Right.
It's the person that did its fault. And I think in this case, they did ultimately pay their ramifications for it. But it's not AI. And I don't want anybody looking at that from an AI ethical perspective, because the one thing I do adamantly disagree with you on, Christian, it is absolutely about regulation and control. That's the only reason you talk about ethics. Because if you're concerned about ethics, apart from your own personal ethics, you want somebody else to step in and take care of it. And that's regulation. I don't want that. We got too much of that already. People will disagree with me. I saw Rachel disagreeing. That's okay. By the way, Rachel, you're welcome to disagree, and I respect you for disagreeing. That's great. I'd love to have a discussion about that. It's okay for us to disagree, and we can still be civil with one another. You and I are in that, Christian. It may not sound like it at the moment because I'm obviously on my soapbox, but that's why we're here. But it's absolutely a discussion about regulation. And again, I'll go back to my favorite two words: personal responsibility. If nobody knew, I can't blame the guys that made profit because nobody knew.
No, I love that personal responsibility focus, because I think that rings, a very important thing. And as far as the regulation component, I'm of the opinion that there's, it's a whack-a-mole game when it comes to regulation. And in the end, it does prohibit freedom and innovation, and ultimately stifle what could be a beautiful growth, that does come with some risks.
And that's my concern, because again, if that just means other countries that have more enlightened politicians are going to succeed and benefit where we do. And then again, are they bad because they were looking at it from a profit motive, or are they good because they were looking at it from a less of a control? I don't know the answer ultimately to that. I agree with your whack-a-mole analogy. The difference is I think that we as the public are the mole, and it's the regulators that are sitting there whacking and trying to hit us over the head. And so I want to avoid that analogy with as much as possible. And I guess to me, it boils down to this. At the end of the day, I trust you, Christian, to make the right choices for you and your family, and in general for society. I trust people more or less to make the right decision. And I feel that most people that are getting into this on the other side, they really get focused on the fact that they don't trust others and they want to be protected from them. And so that's there. Tom just made a comment. I'm going to read this here. I didn't.
Beautiful.
Ethics in war differ from ethics in peacetime. Oh, that's so true. Absolutely. And ethics with the use of AI versus regulation versus Tom, that's a really good point. You're absolutely right. I just think, again, probably because I'm the old man around here right now at 55, and I'll take that. That's okay. I know how fragile that liberty, that independence is, and I want to make. And it doesn't matter what political side you're on. Okay, it doesn't matter. They all want to control what we're doing, and I think this entire AI ethics is just one more way of the power hungry to get in front of us and try to control what we're doing. So
yeah, no, and that's, I think, why I wasn't surprised when you pushed back when I brought up the ethics discussion.
Because you're so nice.
When I heard you say, I don't believe it's a real thing, after you've finished, and even now, what I hear is that you see it as a tool, not an actual real discussion. You see that the people that are bringing up this discussion, and even when I brought it up first, you're like, Christian, you sound like one of those reporters that's just trying to pour gasoline on the fire.
Exactly.
Because what you're correlating it to is, that entry of control, regulation from the top down, with the goal of just stifling out innovation and productivity and free ability to move, and that we are on the same page yet again. And so I think that's that's where I think I'll land this plane before I read what AI
I would say Tom's
Dr.
last comment was really spot on there. Somebody from Facebook, I think, made a comment. That was perfect. Go ahead. You can read it.
Yeah, that AI is bringing to light the loose values of integrity and ethics, because that's the whole reason what I'm sounding the alarm for. As I shared, I have clients coming to me and they're saying, hey, can I replicate myself? Hey, can I trick my client? Not trick, they don't even use that word. It's more, can I make them think it's me, or make it think it's a human on my team? And it's bringing to light the loose values and integrity that they had already, right? It's not even that, oh, AI made them think this way. It was, no, they just were kind of loose to begin with.
And that's my whole point right there. They already had an ethical issue and loose values, and that's exactly my point.
No, that's
so
good.
Whoever posted that it's bringing light, I think that is something I can absolutely agree with, and I'm guessing it's probably something you can agree with too, Christian. That AI is bringing light to this issue. 100% agreed on that.
Which is almost, I think it's more realistic. And thank you, Carolina M, for sharing that. But I think that is a good thing, essentially, because it means, right, it comes back to that personal responsibility. It's like AI doesn't change a person, just amplifies, which is even what we've been talking about this entire symposium, is AI's there to amplify and to accelerate your efforts. And if that's from a bad place, it'll take you there even faster.
Yeah, I was going to say you can amplify good or bad, and it's just more noticeable sometimes when it's the bad stuff.
No, that's good. That's good. I think I'm happy to land that plane there, Jonathan. Put up one hell of a fight.
Well, hey, thank you for the discussion. I appreciate it. As we found out after our first heated discussion, I think we're in what my wife and I call violent agreement. In other words, I think we agree on most of the base points. And when we strip everything back away, but sometimes as you start wrapping things up, it gets different emotions involved. And of course, these are fun discussions. I enjoy these. My wife isn't even around my office right now. She's like, I'm leaving while you do that discussion with Christian. I don't want to hear it. I love these things because to me, they're fun. I enjoy debate. Reminds me of being in high school. And yes, that was 30 some years ago, but it was great fun to be on debate and to have to argue things. And I appreciate you joining me to do that today. This has been great fun. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it as well, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure. And I'm so grateful that you had the idea initially for this, and it was amazing. And we brought it to Tom, and I had the first discussion with Tom, and he brought it up all by himself. I didn't even have to bring it up. He was like, it'd be fun, a debate with John. And he gave me the whole picture, and I was like, you have no idea what just happened this morning. We just had that. But I will say one more thing before we close out here, Tom, is I think I'll change my positioning just a little bit here, Jonathan. I think you'll like what I'm going to change it to, because instead of AI ethics, I'm going to call it AI safety, because it's about how we can make sure that this technology is safely implied and introduced and maintained, rather than it being an ethics discussion. How about that?
I'm not sure, because again, that AI safety, and I'm one for words, and I know we've got a few minutes left. I think, Tom, we've got a few minutes left to continue this discussion, if I'm not mistaken. It's anytime we have these discussions, I'm going to sound like a broken record, Christian. I just can't help it. I apologize. I go back to the fact that so many people want somebody else to take care of the problems for us. I don't. Yes, do we need rules and regulations? Yes. Do we need laws? Absolutely. I don't want to live in an anarchy society, not for a moment. That's not what I want. But I also think that as we continue to evolve, and as has happened historically in societies, those in power are continuously looking for more ways to control us. And right, wrong, or indifferent, I think AI ethics is one of those discussions that's designed to ultimately provide those power hungry, as opposed to money hungry, and we can decide later whether they're the same people or not, to give them more control over our lives. And I want to fight back on that, because they're ultimately going to get it. They're going to win. They're going to find enough people that are willing to give up. I just want to go kicking and screaming into that, so they know I didn't want them to make that decision for me.
I can agree with you on that.
I have a quick question I want to interject here, and appreciate you both. This has been a very spirited debate. I loved it, getting a lot of great comments. I guess a question would be the AI, the use of ethics circling around AI I think that you have ethics, different levels of ethics or different rules. We call it ethical rules surrounding different topics: war, peace, business, non-for-profit, different technologies all have different rules. AI has a different rule, in my opinion, for ethics. It's just not ethics, period, but it's AI ethics, and here's why I say that. And so I guess I'm kind of siding a little bit in this case with Christian, but I do agree, Jonathan, personal responsibility forefront 100% every time, all day, every day. It's just the way it is. If it wasn't the case, then why are politicians, and I don't want to get too deep into this because I want to stay away from politics, why are politicians and business leaders calling for a pause on AI development to give time for regulators to implement rules around the use of AI?
Well, let me, if I can, jump in on that. So I don't know everybody that's calling for pausing, but I know one of the first people that stood out about pausing was Elon Musk. And he's like, guys, we got to stop. We got to give them time to regulate. It's my opinion. I don't know Elon Musk. I could be wrong, and I'm not trying to disparage him. But I don't believe that Elon Musk cared one bit about AI regulation. He did that purely to try to slow down the competition so that he could get Grok and his tools out there and not lose as much ground. I believe the same as with the politicians. There's always something else behind what's being said. My wife tells me I'm cynical. I do trust the human being. I trust humans. I trust people to make the right decisions. Politicians and big business people don't necessarily qualify in that category because they have other things that they're more focused on than what I'm doing for dinner tonight or whether or not I'm going to be comfortable sleeping tonight or whatever else. They're at a different point in life and a different structure, and therefore they make different decisions on different values. So again, I think, the fact that so many businesses and so many politicians are calling for it, the politicians are calling for it because businesses are paying them to say that, and businesses are doing it because they're, again, big business is not necessarily squeaky clean either. They're doing it to stifle the competition so they've got more time to get caught up. Because the more that ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity, and I'm going to leave Google out of it right now, the more that they advance down this road, the harder it makes for another AI model to jump in and compete with them.
Fully agree with that. Are there any parts of AI that ethically should not be explored and we shouldn't even consider developing?
Well, I certainly think that autonomous AI has huge risks associated with it. And that's a discussion that we should be having right now. And we probably are, not necessarily in my circles, but about that autonomous AI. Again, are there concerns there? Absolutely. Are there things that should be done? Absolutely. When I see, though, that you've got big government and big business getting in bed together to make these decisions, I'm pretty sure that everybody on this call and watching this call isn't being represented by those people. And maybe I'm cynical, and if I am, that's probably because I'm 55 and have screwed up enough in my life to see bad things happen.
Yeah, it's amazing. The older I get, the more clarity I have on my path traveled.
Yes, exactly. Well, hindsight's always 20/20. It's a whole lot better than the future. But no, I think it's a really good question you asked, Tom, and I think it's a good question I'd love to hear Christian's perspective on that. Christian, why do you think that big business and big government are all calling for a slowdown and a pause or whatever until the regulators get things under control?
Yeah, so obviously from that angle, I agree with you on that one, Jonathan, of like that there's a hey, wait, we're behind.
Yes.
Type of feeling and attitude. However, when the actual developers of the AI models that are at the forefront, Sam Altman, of the CEO of OpenAI, he's saying, hey, we need to let GPT-4 stew a little bit before we go on to 5 because we want to see what is this even going to do. That's where that's the person that I look to, if you will, the person, that I look to when I say, okay, that motive and that intention is because he is watching this emergence of something that we've never seen like this before. And
I
that
appreciate
is,
your perspective, but I want to go back to their announcement they made a few weeks ago about all this new vision stuff and audible stuff that we were supposed to have that still hasn't rolled out to anybody. I think the only reason he's saying 4 needs to stew a while is because 5 ain't ready, guys. That's why. Now, again, I could be wrong. I don't think they're trying to make money. That's what they're here to do. That's their job, by the way. Even the government requires a business to do that. If you don't, they shut you down. That's what they're trying to do. If 5 was ready, I don't believe for a hot minute it wouldn't be released tonight. It's not ready. The stuff they showed us back in was it April or whenever they made those announcements about all the new, when GPT 4.0 came out and they made all the announcement, vision and all these other things.
Right.
Nobody's seen them yet. It's been over a month. That's because they're not ready. They demoed us is all they did. If 5 was ready, I believe personally it'd ship tonight.
and that's where, if we look at the track record of how OpenAI has released, because they did start as a nonprofit, and now they are for sure 100%.
Yes, they've definitely changed now. Yes,
but they have pages and pages and pages of safety documentation on these models as they've grown and developed, and that documentation has only gotten bigger and bigger and bigger as the model's capability has continued to develop. And those are for surrounding what is the impact of this on society? What will happen when people get a hold of this? Just general public, how can we make sure it's not going to give them bad advice or talk explicitly to them even if it tells them to? What are we like? We had people, in the beginning of ChatGPT who were like going to it and asking it how to do illegal things, and it would be like, yep,
sure,
this is how you do it, 1 2 3, and that had to be prompted or removed from the model's brain because they were like, oh snap, we didn't think people would do that. That's weird. Why would
but
somebody
the good news is guess what? They did get it removed because they found out people were doing things they shouldn't, and they found out about it. We didn't need a regulator to tell us before it was released it needed to happen. They were able to be nimble and to deal with it, and no big deal. Everybody's okay.
But that was a team that was dedicated to the safety of this AI. Without that team's representation, if there was no discussion or consideration of how this model is going to be interacting with the public, and that's that responsibility as us on the forefront of this technology and teaching the availability,
right,
teaching the usage, that's where I feel like there's that responsibility to incorporate the discussion of this impact that
100%. So 100%.
I'm going to throw a little wrinkle in the mix, as if there's not enough wrinkles already being tossed around here. So because AI is being developed so fast, it goes back to the call for, hey, time out, slow down, we got to have time. I agree with you, Jonathan. I think that was Elon Musk. I think that was his whole goal, is just to slow things down and catch up. But there is some truth to that.
There's a grain of truth, absolutely.
If AI is moving so fast, how do business owners who are trying to get that edge to make a living, and most businesses in America are small business. They have a job, and it's they've created themselves a job, and they're just trying to get by, and they're trying to use every advantage they can. So where's the line drawn with the AI development as it relates, compared, I guess, in relation to the use of AI and trying to make a living?
Well, and I'm probably jaded here as well, Tom, because in my group, I see all kinds of people come in and they go, how can I use AI to make money? And they seem to want to give up on 2 key aspects of making money. One is serving others, and 2 is doing work. They don't want to serve others, and they don't want to do work. They just want AI to figure it all out for them, and they want to eat bonbons and play video games while the checks come in. That's not reality, and that's not the way it is. I believe whether they stopped AI development today or whether we got 5 tomorrow, that small businesses are the people that are going to likely find the ways to use it to help them be more profitable. Bigger businesses, bigger organizations, there's too much bureaucracy. Not that they won't get there, but it's going to be much, much slower. I believe in that free economy, and that if we allow those small businesses to do that, they're going to develop great ways to use this technology. I'm more concerned that big business and big government get in the way and stop us because it's too scary for you to do. We need to do it. And then that takes away the innovation. And then we are going to be or see more problems, in my mind.
Yeah, it's a great point. There's a big difference in This is such a great segue. Our next panel is a race to $100 million, and it's going from.
I love it.
It's going, and I see in the background $100 million leads behind you, and I think it's
right there, yep,
right there. And so I think there's a difference of use for a small business and a big business. A small change in a big business can make huge ripples, and a big change in a small business can make big ripples. But small changes in a big business, in a small business, it may not be that noticeable. The effect may not be that great. But I still think there's a responsibility, personal use responsibility. Agree.
100%.
100%, 1,000%. But final comments, and then I have one more question for both of you. But final comments.
Just thanks for allowing us to do this, Tom. I think this was a great discussion. Christian and I have had some of this discussion privately. We've had more of it now publicly, and I'm really grateful that you gave us the chance to do that. And Christian, thanks for being a great sport and tolerating my soapbox stomping.
No, and I'm on that one with you, Jonathan. It was such a pleasure to be able to do this, and thank you, Tom, for being able to create the space and being able to open up this conversation and have a little bit of fun, Jonathan. It's been a blast. Like I said, I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. So you guys have been going back and forth, and the views are very opposing. The foundations are the same. You guys have the base, it comes down to personal responsibilities, and I agree. I think everyone, you guys both agree on that. You guys both agree there needs to be some regulation. You guys both agree on a lot of different levels, but there's also a lot of disagreement there as well. So having said all that, did anything each one of you said change the others, your mind from what you heard from each other? I'd be curious to know what that was.
Yeah, so for me, the biggest thing was the and this is where I genuinely appreciate, Jonathan, your wisdom and your insight into this issue, because I hear AI ethics, or I say AI ethics, and I'm thinking very specifically around how can we better this process? How can we make this even more beneficial to humanity? And you are hearing the other side of the dangers of what it means when fear is introduced with the effort to control. And that is something that I really appreciate that you brought to this discussion, because when I'm thinking again about this topic, that's not even was not even in my mind prior to having that discussion with you, because I haven't necessarily seen that, right? When I, even thinking back, I think, one of the first ones of that was the shutdown with the Patriot Act, for example, where it's like, oh my goodness, this terrible thing happened. Now we have to shut down and control this specific aspect of society, and the impact and the implications, we're still dealing with those today. And yeah, we can bring up even more horrific examples, but the point of it is that has been used time and time again throughout history as an effort to impose a control or some type of authority over individuals in areas where it shouldn't be. And that's what I appreciate the most about what you brought here. Thank you, Jonathan.
That's good.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. I think, Christian, you helped me realize that there are truly people out there that value making this work and doing it well, that are not doing it for the sake of control. They're doing it for the sake of safety. And I appreciate you showing me that perspective, because again, I'm probably a bit jaded in how I look at that. So thank you for sharing that and having the fortitude to help me see that.
Absolutely, Jonathan. I appreciate those kind of words as well.
Well, I'm going to do something I might regret. I don't know, but I want to. It's never a good way to start this. Start things. So I'm going to share my screen of an image that I think I'd like to have a very similar conversation as AI evolves, maybe next time. So hopefully this.
Yes.
Oh, hey, there we go. We can do that. I like it. Tom,
right.
Man, you're the AI image master. I love it.
No, I'm a student. But anyhow.
Yeah, but do you know how thin the guy with the white beard was? That's where I'm trying to get. I love that.
Yeah, you even got my glasses on there.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
They did good. So anyhow, thank you both. Appreciate it. We'll definitely be in touch, and thank you again.